Have you ever stopped to think about how the apps on your phone actually get made? How they go from just an idea to this polished thing that millions of people use? Well, it's not magic. It's a plan. And today, we're going to break down the different kinds of plans or models that teams use to build great software. I mean, it's a huge question, right? When you're trying to build something really complex, like a new social media app or, a rocket, you can't just start throwing pieces together and hope for the best. You need a framework, a shared game plan that everyone on the team can get behind. And that's exactly what a software development model is. Think of it as the project's master blueprint, or its recipe. It tells the entire team what to do, what order to do it in, and how all those different pieces are going to fit together in the end. Okay, so to really understand how we build software today, we have to go back to the beginning. We need to look at the original model that, for a very long time, seemed like the only logical way to get things done. And that first foundational method is called the Waterfall model. The name is super literal. The core idea is incredibly strict. You have to finish one phase completely before anyone can even think about starting the next. So you finish all of the planning before you start any of the design. There's no going back upstream. And you can see right here why that waterfall name is so perfect. The process only flows in one direction, down. You start with planning, which flows into design, which flows into building, then testing, and so on. Each step cascades into the next, and there is absolutely no way to swim back up to change something you did earlier. And you can probably already see the massive, glaring problem with this, right? This super rigid structure creates a critical, often project-killing issue. What happens when reality hits and things don't go exactly according to that perfect plan you made months ago? And this is exactly where waterfall projects would just fall apart. I mean, imagine you're months into a project, you finally start testing, and only then do you find a huge flaw in the original design. With waterfall, you can't just go back and fix it. You might have to scrap everything and start over. Plus, the user gives their input on day one, and then they're gone. It's just incredibly rigid and risky. So naturally, people realized that these huge problems with waterfall just weren't sustainable. This led to some new models. Now, these weren't a total revolution yet, but they were really clever evolutions, designed to fix waterfall's biggest flaws. First up is the V model, and it tackled that huge testing happens way too late problem with a really powerful shift in thinking. It asked, what if you started planning your tests at the exact same moment you started planning your features? This V shape illustrates the idea perfectly. You see, as the team goes down the left side of the V, defining requirements, designing the system, they're simultaneously planning the matching test phase on the right side. So for every development step, there's a quality control step ready and waiting. They happen in parallel. So what's the big takeaway here? It's a fundamental change in mindset. You're not waiting until the end to find bugs in the final product. You're trying to prevent them from the start by building quality checks into every single step. It's all about finding errors early, when they're cheap and easy to fix, not at the end when they're a total catastrophe. Okay, so the next evolution, called the spiral model, focused on a different problem. What do you do when a project is massive, complicated, and full of unknowns? How do you deal with all that risk? The secret to the spiral model is that it works in loops or cycles. And every single time the team goes through a loop, they repeat these 4 key phases. First, you define your goals. Then, you analyze the risks and build a small prototype. After that, you develop and test it. And finally, you plan for the next loop around. And when you put those 4 phases together over and over, you get this beautiful spiral. It shows perfectly how the project grows over time. You start small, in the center, with a basic concept. You loop around, analyze risks, and build a little bit. Then you loop around again, adding more features, learning as you go, and spiraling outwards toward the finished product. But look, these fixes, as clever as they were still kind of building on that old, rigid foundation. What came next? Well, it wasn't just another evolution. It was a complete revolution in how we think about building software. And this revolution is really built on 2 words that you're going to hear all the time in modern software development: iterative and incremental. The idea is actually pretty simple. Stop trying to build the entire thing all at once. Instead, break the project down into small, manageable, repeatable cycles. So instead of one giant launch day, you build the product piece by piece.
As this shows, you work in these short cycles called iterations. At the end of each iteration, you add one small but fully working piece of software. That's an increment. You build a little, you show it to users, you get feedback, and you use what you learn to build the next piece even better.
Now, this iterative idea is really the engine behind a much bigger philosophy called Agile. The whole thing is summed up perfectly by this one line from its manifesto. It signals this huge shift in priorities. It's not saying processes and tools don't matter, but that getting smart people to talk and work together effectively, that's what's really important. And this philosophy just turns the old way of thinking completely on its head. I mean, who cares if you have a 500-page manual if the software itself doesn't work? Let's focus on shipping something that delivers value. And instead of fighting with a customer over a contract, let's actually bring them into the team and collaborate. Most important of all, let's just accept reality. Things change. A great team doesn't just blindly follow a plan from a year ago, it adapts.
Okay, so we've gone through all this history, from rigid waterfalls to flexible spirals, but as a beginner who's looking to get into the field today, which of these are you actually going to run into out there in the real world?
So, while it's important to know the history, let's be super clear about the reality on the ground. Today, the vast majority of software teams, especially in the Western market, are using an Agile approach. Frameworks like Scrum or Kanban, which are built on all of these Agile principles, are pretty much the modern industry standard. So here's what that really means for you, and this is maybe the most important takeaway. In an Agile world, being a great coder is only half the battle. Your success is going to depend just as much on your flexibility, on your communication skills, and on your ability to collaborate closely with a team every single day to build something that users actually want. So we've seen this incredible journey, right? From these strict, unchangeable plans to a much more dynamic, human-centered way of working. The evolution from Waterfall to Agile completely reshaped the entire tech industry. But it's for sure not going to stop here, which leaves us with this really fascinating question. What's the next revolution in software development going to look like?